Feynman once said, "Nature never negotiates. Laws don't pause for human mistakes." And sometimes physics reveals truth in the strangest, unexpected moments. This story begins in the year 1984. A truck driver made a mistake, a simple mistake. He missed his highway exit, so he turned down another road, just trying to find direction. Nothing unusual, just a delivery truck, carrying steel, ordinary steel, construction rebar, from a factory in Mexico, heading north toward New Mexico. But something strange happened next. The truck passed through the gates of Los Alamos National Laboratory, the birthplace of the atomic bomb. The guards noticed immediately. A radiation alarm started screaming, loud and sharp. The guards panicked. Their first thought? Someone stole nuclear material. Maybe something escaped the lab. Maybe someone smuggled something out. But the truth was stranger. The radiation was not from the laboratory. It was coming from the truck, from the steel, ordinary construction steel. And according to Feynman, this is where physics becomes terrifyingly honest, because the universe does not care about your intentions. It only follows its own rules. The steel inside that truck was radioactive, not slightly, but dangerously radioactive. And the strange part, it didn't come from a bomb, not a reactor, not a weapons lab. According to Feynman's reasoning, the contamination came from a hospital machine designed to save lives. And that is the paradox of nuclear physics. The same force that heals can also destroy. In hospitals, there are machines called radiotherapy units. They aim radiation directly at tumors, destroying cancer cells without surgery, without blades. And these machines use something very powerful, a radioactive element called cobalt-60. Feynman often explained radioactivity simply. An unstable atom cannot stay still. Its nucleus contains too much energy, too many particles, so eventually it releases energy. It decays, and when it decays, it releases radiation. Sometimes alpha particles, sometimes electrons, sometimes something far more dangerous, gamma rays. Gamma rays, according to Feynman, are not particles like bullets. They are light, but incredibly energetic, millions of times more energetic than visible light. Feynman liked simple comparisons. He would say, ordinary light is gentle rain. Gamma rays are microscopic bullets. When one passes through your body, it does something very specific. It knocks electrons out of atoms. This process is called ionization, and when atoms inside your cells become ionized, molecules break, chemical bonds snap. Sometimes your body repairs the damage. Human cells are surprisingly resilient, but sometimes the repair goes wrong, and the molecule most vulnerable is DNA, the blueprint of your body. Every cell carries instructions: how to grow, how to divide, how to stop. But radiation can damage those instructions. A gamma ray can break the DNA strand, sometimes once, sometimes twice. And according to Feynman, a double break is the real danger, because the cell tries to repair the damage, but occasionally the repair creates a mistake, a mutation. And if that mutation affects the wrong gene, the gene that controls growth, the cell forgets something very important: how to stop. And that is cancer.
This is why hospitals use very powerful radiation sources to destroy tumors before tumors destroy us. But here is the problem that worried many physicists, including Feynman. These sources are incredibly powerful and incredibly small. A cobalt source used in medicine may contain thousands of curies of radioactivity packed inside something smaller than your thumb. Inside machines, thick lead blocks the radiation. Lead is very dense. Gamma rays struggle to pass through that shielding, keeps doctors safe, keeps patients safe. But if that shield is broken or opened or abandoned, the radiation escapes freely. And that is exactly what happened in Mexico years earlier. A hospital in Ciudad Juarez had a machine for cancer therapy. Inside it, a cobalt-60 source, thousands of tiny pellets, each one radioactive. The hospital closed operations. The machine was forgotten, left inside a storage building. Nobody registered it. Nobody tracked it. Eventually, 2 workers found the machine. They thought it was scrap, just metal worth a few dollars. They dismantled it, loaded it into a truck, but during transport, the source capsule was punctured and thousands of cobalt pellets spilled into the truck bed, tiny metal grains smaller than rice, each one emitting radiation, and nobody knew. The workers sold the metal to a scrapyard for $10. $10 for something that would soon contaminate an entire region. Because scrapyards use huge magnets to lift metal, those magnets picked up the cobalt pellets and scattered them through piles of scrap steel. Thousands of tons of metal became contaminated. That metal was melted in foundries, turned into construction rebar, and shipped across Mexico and the United States. Buildings, foundations, apartment walls, all containing radioactive steel. Nobody knew. The contamination only appeared because one driver took a wrong turn and passed through Los Alamos, where radiation detectors were waiting. According to Feynman, this is the lesson. Physics is precise, mercilessly precise. The atoms don't care if you forget. They continue decaying, quietly, patiently, obeying the laws of nature. And that truck accidentally revealed something disturbing. The most dangerous radioactive materials on Earth are not always inside bombs. Sometimes they sit quietly inside hospitals, waiting inside shielded machines, doing their job, saving lives, until someone forgets they are there.
According to Richard Feynman, physics reveals truth in uncomfortable ways. Sometimes the lesson arrives slowly. Sometimes it arrives through tragedy. The next story happened in 1987 in a Brazilian city called Goiânia, a normal city. Busy streets, markets, families, children playing. Nothing about it suggested a nuclear disaster. But according to Feynman's logic, danger does not announce itself. Radiation is invisible, odorless, silent, and patient. 2 men were searching for scrap metal. An abandoned building caught their attention. Once, it was a radiotherapy clinic. Years earlier, the clinic moved to another building, but something was left behind, a therapy machine containing cesium-137. The machine sat there 2 full years, unguarded, unwatched, forgotten. And Feynman would say, this is when physics becomes dangerous, not during design, but during neglect. The 2 men forced the machine open. Inside, they discovered a metal capsule. They broke it open further, and inside they found something strange, a powder, fine, white, almost beautiful. But the strangest part appeared at night. The powder glowed blue, a faint, mysterious glow,
soft, almost magical. Feynman once explained, this glow could happen when radiation energizes molecules or air, creating light similar to Cherenkov radiation, the same effect seen in nuclear reactors, a haunting blue light. But those men did not know any physics. They only saw something fascinating, something mysterious. So they did what people often do with mysteries. They shared it. They showed friends. They invited neighbors. The powder passed from hand to hand. People played with the glow. They rubbed it on their skin. They painted blue narcs on clothing. Some even rubbed it on their faces because it sparkled in darkness. According to Feynman's perspective, this is the tragedy of radiation. It gives no warning, no pain, no signal, nothing to stop you. One man took the powder to a scrapyard. The owner, named Devar, found it fascinating. He carried it home to show family. Friends gathered to see the glowing powder. Tiny grains were removed, like crystals, and handed out as gifts, a souvenir of something strange. But inside those grains, atoms were decaying, cesium nuclei splitting, releasing energy, gamma rays passing silently through bodies, through walls, through skin, through cells. Feynman often said, gamma rays are relentless. They do not bounce, they do not stop. They pass through everything until something finally absorbs them, and sometimes that something is DNA. Days passed. People felt slightly ill. Nausea appeared. Strange burns began forming. Hair started falling out, but nobody understood why. This was not a nuclear plant, not a laboratory, just a neighborhood, a scrapyard, a family home. Radiation was not a possibility in their minds. 15 days passed before someone finally suspected the powder. The scrapyard owner's wife became worried. She placed the remaining powder inside a bag and carried it to a hospital. Luck intervened. A medical physicist happened to be there. He had a radiation detector, a scintillation counter. When he tested the bag, the detector screamed. The material was intensely radioactive. The city entered panic. News spread rapidly. Over 100,000 people flooded hospitals, begging to be tested. Radiation fear spread faster than radiation itself. Eventually, 249 people were confirmed contaminated. 28 suffered severe radiation burns. 4 people died, including a 6-year-old girl. Her name was Lady. She had eaten food with contaminated hands. Cesium entered her body, and once inside, distance no longer helps. Feynman explained, external radiation is dangerous, but internal radiation is worse because the source is inside you, irradiating every cell, every second. The girl received a dose around 6 sieverts, far beyond safe limits. Her small body absorbed radiation continuously. Organs failed, cells died, and when she passed away, something unimaginable was required. Her coffin had to be lined with lead and sealed in concrete, because even after death, her body remained radioactive. The cleanup became enormous. Entire houses were demolished. Soil was scraped away. Thousands of tons of waste sealed in containers to be stored for centuries. According to physics, cesium-137 has a half-life 30 years. That means after 30 years, only half is gone. After 60, a quarter remains. After 90, an eighth remains. To reach relative safety requires 6 half-lives, nearly 180 years. Feynman loved exponential curves because they reveal a brutal truth. Radioactive decay never reaches zero. It only approaches it forever. So the waste from that accident must remain isolated longer than many nations have existed. The economic damage was catastrophic. Goiânia's economy collapsed temporarily. Other regions refused goods from the city. Markets lost customers. Tourism vanished.
Fear spread through neighborhoods. People avoided touching others, avoided food, avoided markets, because radiation does something psychological. It poisons trust. According to Feynman's thinking, this is the strange paradox of nuclear physics. The same force capable of saving lives, destroying tumors, powering reactors, can also poison cities if forgotten, if abandoned, if misunderstood. And the most disturbing part is how small the source was. 93 grams, less than a bar of soap, yet that tiny amount contaminated an entire city. Because, as Feynman said, danger in nuclear physics is not about total quantity, it is about concentration. A small amount of radioactive material, packed tightly, can produce an enormous radiation intensity, like sunlight through a magnifying glass, focused into one point. And that is why a tiny capsule inside a hospital can become far more dangerous than people imagine. When control is lost, when shielding is broken, when someone does not know what they hold, physics continues its work, quietly, relentlessly, until someone notices the damage. Immediately to one image, a mushroom cloud, a blinding flash, a city destroyed in seconds. And yes, a nuclear bomb is terrifying. Feynman knew that better than most people because he worked on the Manhattan Project, and he pointed to something people rarely consider: the difference between an event and a condition. A nuclear explosion is an event. It happens in seconds. A massive flash, a fireball, a shock wave. Buildings collapse. The radiation burst arrives instantly. Then it fades. Fallout follows. But even fallout spreads widely, over huge distances. The radioactive material becomes diluted, scattered across thousands of square kilometers. Dangerous, yes, but spread thin, like poison mixed into a swimming pool. But a medical radiation source is different. It is not an event. It is a condition. It sits quietly in one place, emitting radiation every second, every minute, every hour, every day for decades. And that, according to physics, changes everything. Because radiation follows a simple rule called the inverse square law. Feynman loved simple laws because they reveal hidden power. The rule says double the distance, radiation intensity drops to 1/4. Triple the distance, it drops to 1/9. Distance protects you, but the opposite is also true. Half the distance, 4 times the radiation. 1/10 the distance, 100 times the radiation. And medical sources are designed to be incredibly concentrated. The source inside a therapy machine might be smaller than a pencil eraser. Yet inside that tiny object, there may be thousands of curies of radioactivity all packed into one location. Feynman often compared this idea to sunlight. Sunlight spread across a field feels warm, harmless, but sunlight focused through a magnifying glass can ignite a fire. Concentration changes everything. The same rule applies to radioactive material. A tiny capsule can deliver a lethal dose within minutes if unshielded. Stand 1 meter from a strong cobalt-60 source, and the radiation entering your body can reach dangerous levels in minutes, not hours, minutes. And here is the frightening difference between bombs and medical sources. You cannot pick up a nuclear explosion. You cannot put it in your pocket. You cannot carry it into your home. But you can carry a cesium capsule in your hand. You can put it on a table,
You can leave it inside a truck, or a scrapyard, or a building, and while it sits there, gamma rays continue passing through everything: people, walls, floors, tables, DNA. According to Feynman, the universe does not care why the radiation exists. It only follows the equations. Decay continues whether you watch or not. And there is another concept that matters: specific activity, a phrase physicists use to describe how much radiation exists per gram of material. Feynman would explain this with a comparison. The ocean contains radioactive atoms: uranium, potassium-40, even carbon-14. The total radioactivity in the ocean is enormous, but it is spread across millions of cubic kilometers, so the concentration is tiny. You can swim all day without concern. But imagine taking that same radioactivity and compressing it into a cube the size of your thumb. That is what a medical source essentially is: extreme concentration of radioactive decay packed tightly inside a small capsule. This is why shielding is so important. Lead surrounds the source because lead is very dense. Gamma rays collide with heavy nuclei inside lead, losing energy until they stop. Remove that shielding and the situation changes instantly. Safe becomes lethal within seconds. Feynman liked to point out how thin the barrier often is between safety and disaster. Sometimes just centimeters of metal separate life from death. And the danger increases even more if radioactive material enters the human body. External radiation is dangerous, but internal radiation is worse, because distance no longer helps. If cesium enters your bloodstream, it spreads through muscles, because chemically it behaves like potassium, an element your body absorbs naturally. Once inside, the radiation source travels with you. It irradiates your organs every second, 24 hours a day, while you sleep, while you eat, while you walk. Your own body becomes the source. Feynman called this kind of danger insidious because the damage is invisible. Cells are damaged quietly. DNA breaks silently. And the person feels nothing for hours, sometimes days, sometimes years. This is why radiation accidents often confuse people. Symptoms appear long after the exposure: nausea, hair loss, burns, cancer, sometimes decades later, but by then the cause is difficult to trace. And this is why Feynman argued that concentrated radioactive sources demand extraordinary vigilance. Because once control is lost, the physics takes over, and physics never forgets. Atoms continue decaying, second by second, year by year, obeying their half-lives. Cobalt-60, half-life 5 years. Cesium-137, half-life 30 years. And the decay never stops. It fades slowly, according to an exponential curve. After one half-life, half remains. After 2, 1/4. After 3, 1/8. But the curve never touches zero. The radioactivity never truly disappears. It only becomes smaller over time. So when a radioactive source is lost, abandoned, or forgotten, it does not stop being dangerous. It simply waits, emitting radiation for decades, sometimes centuries, until someone finds it. And that, according to Feynman, is the quiet but terrifying difference between a bomb and a source. A bomb destroys instantly. A source can poison slowly, silently, patiently waiting for someone to forget it exists.
According to Richard Feynman, the universe is brutally honest. It does not care about intentions, only results. The equation is satisfied or it is not. The atom decays or it does not. And when humans create radioactive sources, they create something unusual, an object that remains dangerous long after its creators are gone. This is the real problem, not bombs, not reactors, but something far quieter, what experts call orphan sources, a strange term, almost gentle, but the meaning is serious. An orphan source is a radioactive source that has lost its guardians. No institution, no inventory, no regulation watching it anymore. It exists somewhere in the world, still emitting, still decaying, still dangerous. According to international reports, there are already hundreds, perhaps thousands of these sources scattered across the planet, in abandoned hospitals, old factories, closed laboratories, scrapyards, warehouses, forgotten basements. And this is not speculation. It has happened again and again in different countries. A worker finds a strange capsule, a metal cylinder, something heavy, something sealed. Curiosity begins. They open it because curiosity is human, but radiation does not forgive curiosity. The moment the shielding is broken, gamma rays escape silently, and the person holding it has no warning, no smell, no sound, no heat, no pain. Nothing to tell them danger is already inside their cells. Feynman often emphasized a disturbing truth. Most dangers in nature announce themselves. Fire burns, acid stings, poison tastes bitter, sharp metal cuts. Your body gives feedback. Pain teaches caution. But ionizing radiation gives no signal, no alarm, except machines designed to detect it. And if those machines are not there, humans remain completely unaware of the danger. That invisibility is what makes radiation accidents so strange. People can stand next to danger for hours, even days, without realizing their cells are being damaged, and the damage does not appear immediately. Sometimes symptoms arrive hours later, sometimes weeks, sometimes years. Cancer may appear decades after exposure, and by then the connection is lost, the cause forgotten. According to Feynman, this makes radiation a unique hazard, because safety depends entirely on human systems, records, labels, locks, training, regulations, and memory, institutional memory. Someone must remember the source exists. Someone must track its location. Someone must maintain its shielding for decades, sometimes centuries, because radioactive decay runs on nature's clock, not ours. You cannot speed it up. You cannot neutralize it. You cannot switch it off. There is no chemical antidote for cobalt-60, no pill that makes cesium safe. The only solution is patience and shielding. Wait for half-lives to pass, 5 years, 30 years, sometimes longer. And during that entire time, someone must remain vigilant. This creates a strange challenge for humanity. We are creating objects that remain dangerous longer than institutions usually survive. Governments fall, economies collapse, hospitals close, records disappear, languages change, symbols lose meaning. But the radioactive source remains exactly the same, still decaying, still emitting, still dangerous. Feynman once joked that nature does not grade on a curve. There is no partial credit. If a gamma ray hits DNA, damage occurs, whether the person understands physics or not, whether they can read the warning sign or not. The universe simply continues its calculation. This is why modern safety systems try to track every source: serial numbers, registries, radiation inspections, international monitoring,
all designed to prevent one simple thing: forgetting. Because forgetting is the real danger. Not malice, not terrorism, not even war, just ordinary human neglect. A hospital closes. A machine remains in the basement. Years pass. Someone discovers heavy metal parts worth money. Scrap dealers dismantle machines. Steel melts. Pellets scatter. Buildings become contaminated, and the discovery arrives only after people become sick. According to Feynman, the tragedy is not that physics is dangerous. The tragedy is that physics is indifferent. The atoms do not know they are inside a hospital machine or a bomb. The gamma rays are identical. The energy is identical. The decay is identical. Only one thing makes the difference: control, discipline, attention, human responsibility. A radiation source inside a shielded machine is a miracle. It destroys tumors, saves patients, gives people more years with their families. But the same source outside shielding becomes a menace, capable of poisoning a neighborhood or a city. The physics never changed, only the context changed. And this, according to Feynman, is the deepest lesson science gives humanity. Extraordinary power, but power always carries responsibility, because nature will never pause while we decide what to do. The atoms continue their decay, quietly, year after year after year, and the difference between miracle and disaster is often nothing more than a few centimeters of lead, and the memory that the source is still there, waiting inside the dark of a hospital basement, still obeying the laws of physics exactly as it always has.